Corey Stewart, who's running for senator, on the line. He came on early for me today. Corey, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, good morning, man. How are you?
Not too bad. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for calling in a little early because Bob Ehrlich was supposed to call, and he probably forgot to call, or he's tied up somewhere. Corey, I wanted to have you on to talk about your campaign. I mean, the events broke out in Charlottesville, and everybody's talking about it. You were staunch, about being for the monuments, and during your campaign for governor, there was a lot of heat with that. Corey, what's your take on this with Charlottesville?
Well, look, the left, Antifa in particular, deliberately went out there. They worked with Democratic politicians like Terry McAuliffe. They deliberately went out there to start a fight. They did, and then they used that fight as a proxy, as a pretext for taking down historical monuments, and that's what they're doing right now. These monuments are there. Now we have Ralph Northam, who says he wants to take them all down, including every one of them that is on the state grounds, including the statue of Stonewall Jackson at VMI, including all the historical monuments on Monument Avenue in Richmond, and the left is determined to take down these monuments to Confederate soldiers because they know this, that if you can take down a monument to somebody who arguably fought to preserve the institution of slavery, you can also take down a monument to someone who owned slaves, namely the Founding Fathers, and that's ultimately where they're going with this.
Corey, let me ask you a question. If we're going to do that, shouldn't we take down everything with the name Robert Byrd in West Virginia? Bridges, post office, schools, roads. I think there's a Robert Byrd something in every city, every county in the state of the state of West Virginia. And let me ask you a question. Are you worried that the Democrats and the Republicans will use Charlottesville events and tie them to your involvement when you were there during the governor's campaign?
Oh, they're already doing that. They're already doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's obviously disturbing is the left wing's, willingness to bring a violent group of thugs called Antifa into their party. And by the way, they ought to be careful, because if you ride the lion or ride the tiger, there's an old expression. If be careful, because if you ride the tiger, eventually you're going to end up inside. Antifa will consume the Democratic Party, and they're a group of fascist thugs, and they're taking over the Democratic Party. But what's even more disturbing, really, is the willingness of Republicans to go along with it.
Absolutely,
and they won't stand up to these Democratic thugs.
Corey, these guys will bust in. They're financed by the Soros groups. Terry McAuliffe gets out, kumbayas in a church, holds hands. Charlottesville, it's all over this morning. I checked it late last night. Charlottesville was on stand down. It's on many websites. The Charlottesville police were on stand down. Now, Corey, if you're going to have gasoline and matches come to the party, and you're a police department or municipality, you're going to have these guys far apart. How is it that Antifada was so peaceful? They came with clubs. They were there for action. They were there for war. They were there to rile up people. It's a shame people get hurt, people get killed. But, even the vice mayor, Corey, of Charlottesville, had a hoodie on, Menace to Society. I mean, this was all a setup.
Well, it is. And look, this guy, Wes Bellamy, who stood by Terry McAuliffe as he, did his, message after Charlottesville. This guy, Wes Bellamy, who's on the city council in Charlottesville, is a racist. Mm-hmm. He has said some of the most nasty, vile things about white women. It just really, I'm not even going to, I will not repeat them. But this guy is an outright racist. And, look, the Democrats, they never condemn their own.
Absolutely.
They will not condemn Antifa. And one of the reasons they won't condemn Antifa is because Tim Kaine's son is a member of Antifa.
Really?
And this thug, Tim Kaine's son, got arrested in Minneapolis for violent activities, for trying to squelch and try to intimidate people from expressing their freedom of speech. Tim Kaine didn't condemn his son. He didn't even say something like, "Oh, boys will be boys," or say that it was wrong. He actually applauded his son for violent activity in Minneapolis.
Can you imagine if that was Corey? Can you imagine if that was Corey Stewart's son?
Well, look, I mean, there's a complete double standard here, and what's so pathetic is that you have all these pathetic, weak-kneed, lily-livered Republicans, throughout the state, and throughout the country, rather, who will not stand up to the left, will not stand up. There's a very, very few of us on the right who are willing to stand up to this, and thank God we have a president of the United States who's willing to do it.
Corey, what do you think?
There are very, very few of them.
What do you think would happen yesterday? Trump disbanded this manufacturers council or business council. It's so sad that we have a president that was a businessman, successful businessman, puts together these councils for advisors, and then weak-kneed, they just plop out one by one. Oh, all of a sudden, statues and racism counts. Why didn't it count before Charlottesville? They're just so phony. They're like Starbucks. They're like the rest of these companies. Now Starbucks is jumping on the bandwagon. What is it? Their products are not selling? Now, here's what I said today on the radio before you came on. If McAuliffe is going to play this card, then rip down all the Civil War trail signs in Virginia, stop Civil War tourism. How's that? Does it bother you that much? Just rip down. You know how much money's involved in tourism with Civil War history, Corey. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look. I mean, the left isn't going through all this effort to redecorate a few parks in Virginia or redecorate a few parks across the South. The left is going through all this effort because ultimately they want to take down the monuments and the statues to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, founding fathers, all Virginians, by the way. And the reason they want to do that, because if you can take down the founding fathers, you can also take down and discredit the founding documents.
Exactly.
Namely the Constitution. That's where this is going. And they've said as much. Some of the big mouths in that crowd have already said that when they're done here, they're coming after George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison. And then where are we? We've lost all of our heroes from the past. We've lost our culture. We've lost our political basis. And they've started to rip down the fabric that keeps this nation together.
Corey, who said who controls the past controls the future, who controls the present controls the past? You remember that?
Yeah, I mean,
it's like 1984,
you have
Animal Farm.
Karl Marx. Karl Marx made the statement that when you take down a nation's heroes, when you take down them down, you control the people. And that's exactly what the far left is trying to do here.
Well, I don't know if you've watched this woman from Oakland, California. Her name is Congressman Barbara Lee. If you have ever seen her, she's a mad dog, like a rabid dog on TV, about Syria and Trump and, impeach Trump. I was in Oakland, California last month, Corey. I want to tell you something. There's 10 cities in Oakland, California that rival Syria and Palestinian refugee camps. I swear to you, you won't believe what you see. People with children from ages 1 to 12 living under bridges. And that's the Democratic Party of California, and that's Oakland, California, Congresswoman Barbara Lee. I tried to get her on the show today to challenge her. They wouldn't even get her on. They wouldn't put her on the show. Because how is it that we have 10 cities in Oakland, California, and these people are moaning about Trump?
Well, I mean, look, the left can't stand logic. The left knows that when their views are brought to light, that they will shrivel up, because they're wrong. And the left is trying to squelch conservative speech, conservative thought. Actually, they're trying to squelch mainstream thinking. And because once they do that, if you can control speech, you can control thought, and once you control speech, you can control people, and then you have tyranny. That's where they're trying to go. Now, you talk to these left-wing lunatics, and they don't seem to understand that the Constitution is there to protect everyone's speech. Mm-hmm. They think that you have the right to freedom of speech, provided that you agree with their view of the world, their leftist view of the world. And what they're doing is they're labeling conservative speech, any speech that disagrees with theirs, as hate speech, and then saying that the Constitution doesn't protect it. That's what they're trying to do. I never thought I'd see this in my lifetime. We are seeing it. And if conservatives don't stop it here, if we don't stand up to it, when are we ever going to stand up for anything? Look, this is the battle, this is the civil rights battle, really, of our generation. Mm-hmm. It's to preserve our freedom of expression, our First Amendment rights.
Corey, let's get back to your campaign a minute in the last 5 minutes. Tell me what's going on with your campaign.
Well, look, I mean, we're in fundraising mode. I'm not going around the state stumping. I'm not getting in the way of Gillespie's campaign. Mm-hmm. We are, we've got people coming to my website. It's CoreyStewart.com. We're raising a lot of money online, small donations. That's the key. That's what we got to do right now. And, because of the federal finance contribution limits, we can't just rely on a few larger donors. We've got to get a lot of smaller donors. So if people want to help my campaign, they can, go to my website, CoreyStewart.com, try to chip in a little bit. No contributions too small. You sign up as a volunteer. We're getting set up. I think there's no question. Even the Larry Sabatos of the world are saying that, it's going to be very difficult for a rhino Republican, an establishment Republican to knock me off for the Republican nomination. So we're looking pretty good.
So you're saying somebody like John Fredericks, left of Rhino? I call John Fredericks left of Rhino. He's really, he's a good friend. He's a funny guy. But, he really goes out there. He lets you know he's Rhino plus. And so I call him left of Rhino. That's all we could do for him. However, I think you have a good shot. I hear things, in Northern Virginia. People are happy with your campaign. I don't know. I mean, Gillespie's got a tough guy running against him, so he's going to have to get out there and really beat the pound the pavement. I don't believe the polls, Corey. After Donald Trump, I don't believe anything.
Well, after my race, they had me down by 30 points, and I lost by 1.2%.
I remember hearing 18%. The last John Fredericks show I heard before your election, it was 18. They had you down by 18. I'm like, are they kidding? Is this a Hillary Clinton deal? I figured they were pumping it up. I figured maybe, a couple. But when I heard John say 18, I thought he had some good insight. It wasn't even close. It was like a Hillary Clinton versus Trump deal,
Yeah, I mean, all the polls, look, the reason the polls are wrong is that, Trump has completely upended the political, we don't know who's going to be voting. And the people that are now involved in the process who have never been involved in the primary process, people who have never voted in a Republican primary, any primary for that matter, voted in my primary. They voted in the primaries across the country for President Trump. Mm-hmm. And people are waking up. People are waking up, Steve. They're waking up and they're realizing that the left is taking over their country, and they're gradually destroying our rights. And the Republicans, establishment Republicans, are sitting on their hands. They're not doing anything. And look, if Ed is listening to this, and I mean this with all sincerity, he's got to get out there and he's got to attack Rolf Northam. Rolf Northam is a far left politician.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And he's just got to hammer him. He's the guy that wants to take down the statue of Stonewall Jackson at VMI. It's ridiculous.
You got to take a stand, and that's why we love Corey Stewart. He's like the by the way, I had you lined up. I'll get it. It'll be queued up when you go out. But I had Braveheart to take you in with Mel Gibson.
I love it.
You got to hear the speech. It'll be on when you go out. But we just switched guests because Bob Ehrlich's going to probably come on in your time. All right. But we appreciate you coming on, Corey. Thanks so much.